Welcome back, everyone. So pleased to have you here with me today as we continue our wonderful endeavor on getting to know ourselves better, getting to know our true essence, and more importantly, getting to know this greater side of ourself that we would call the subconscious mind. This is the Subconscious Healer Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Gabe Roberts. Today, we'll be talking about many wonderful new concepts and something quite intriguing towards the end. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. Let's start with kind of talking about the quest for the initial sensitizing event. Again, the initial sensitizing event is the very first perception, the very first taste of humanity, the very first taste of what life on earth is like that happens after conception, not necessarily after birth, that takes us away from our connection with the divine and gives us a taste of humanity that builds a perception that oftentimes gets reinforced and becomes our self-image. In other words, if we have a view of ourselves that we're not good enough, that life is something we can't trust, if life is full of fear, if we deserve to suffer in some way, if we don't deserve X, if we don't deserve Y, if some new opportunity comes our way and suddenly we have this running dialogue that says, well, there's too much trouble. I don't know if it's worth it. There's a deeper thing going on inside of us that's saying we aren't worth it. That's really the truth of what comes down. Now, where did that come with? We certainly, more than likely, we certainly weren't born with that. That's something we learned. And that's what we'll call the initial sensitizing event, the very seed planting that is the quest that we look for in this work. Because once we change that, once we find that ISE, it gives my work special meaning. And I literally see people transform. I see people's lives completely change on all levels once that earliest seed planting of their perception, the initial sensitizing event, is transformed into something wonderful. That's why the years of conception to around 5 years old are absolutely the most crucial for us. They're the most important ones that will build the dynamics of how we view our life as adults. In my time, the quest for this initial sensitizing event, what has been found at this location could be considered better than anything Stephen King could have ever made up. So if we start discussing the process we use to get to the IC of the problem, we go through some what I call regression to cause. It's asking the subconscious mind to take us to the very first seed planting. We aren't necessarily going back on a timeline because time is just an objective or it's a subjective construct created by our mind. Everything exists right now simultaneously according to the quantum physics, and that's the most valid of all science together. So it's not like I'm going back in time. I'm simply finding something that has already been recorded that is existing right now. The fact that this ISE is existing right now is why it's influencing the person in the world today. It's influencing their relationships, the reality they're having, the results they're having in their life, and their happiness, health, wealth, and well-being. And it's not because it's something that happened a long time ago. It's something that happened and is still existing right now. So that's an important concept to understand. So in our work, we do a regression to cause, a very specific. There's different levels of regression, and not all of them are as accurate and as keen and as precise as they should be. But we search for what that initial sensitizing event, when that first seed planting of the problem looks like. And regressions can be in overall from different approaches. They can be direct or non-direct to the varying degrees. The one that I focus on is I share my feelings on different forms of regression and other basically hypnotic techniques, but I focus on non-directed. And the reason I prefer this technique is because it respects the nature of the subconscious mind. This means if a person has a problem, there's only two agencies that know the cause and know how to fix that problem. That's God and the person's subconscious mind. The answer is already there. The answer is within their subconscious mind, which is beyond just something that regulates heart rate, blood pressure, immune system within their body. The subconscious mind is a universal mind connected to the web of all reality and is also connected to multi dimensions. So it has in it anything and everything we need as far as an answer goes to make the corrections in our life. If we go anywhere else for answers, we're wasting time. Bottom line, I can tell you that. That's why most people that come to me have already been through a gambit of doctors because they're going somewhere else other than this vast universal mind looking for answers and they end up wasting time. So here's how it works. We bypass the critical faculty. That's basically, how traditional hypnosis works. In our work of holographic manipulation therapy, we don't bypass that critical faculty. We work with it. So we're working with the conscious mind, we're working with the critical faculty, and we're working with the subconscious mind. So it's has even greater access and more neurological involvement than traditional hypnosis does. So after that, we are exciting the symptom. Okay. We're having the person describe the process. And I say we because um, what I'm doing is discussing a method between a person that has a problem, and we have to give the subconscious mind a very clear target. We have to give the subconscious mind a very clear idea of what we want to target. So we excite the symptom. I usually say something like, there's a feeling you have, a feeling you don't like, a feeling that you wish to change. Maybe you've run from it, you've tried numbing it, you've tried swallowing it away, you've tried not facing it. Today's the day we're going to face that. And as we do that, I usually influence them to notice a spot in their body where they feel influenced by that. And what that does is it gives us access to this portal of where this subconscious mind um, is giving us an opening to find that initial sensitizing event. And again, what we want to do is we get them into that. We find this feeling, and then all of a sudden we access this portal, and the symptom will become very consuming to them. And I'm giving the mind a very clear target. Then I'll say something like, as you focus on this feeling, I ask for some specific descriptions, and they start to describe some kind of three-dimensional holographic imprint that has smells, tastes, sounds, feelings, textures, things like that. And what this does is it gives us a clear, precise portal. Once we go through this portal, I have them take us through this portal. The mind can take us back 12 years ago, 12 months ago, or even two moments, 2 minutes after conception, or even sometimes 1200 AD to the year 1200 AD. Now, it's not my job to think what these events of significance are or why it took us there. My job is to, basically, I can guide the ship, but it's the individual subconscious mind that picks the port that we're going to go to. Now, my job is very quickly to be a detective and ask if we are at the place we need to be, or if the subconscious mind has ventured us off into some other direction, which it does oftentimes happen. Sometimes it'll say, I'll take anywhere you want to go, but I'm not taking you to that. Sometimes this is apparent with people. If we go somewhere and they open their eyes and they say, it didn't work, or I lost it. I've had times when I'm regressing to cause, and I've had women suddenly say, I lost it. And that to me is code. It's code that, my God, I just got a taste of where we're going and I don't want to go there. You know, even though they're completely anchored in safety, and even though we've done some general negativity and some specific negativity techniques to kind of make that fire, like this trauma would be equivalent to a big bonfire that's burning inside of them, with lots of pressure, even though we've done things to collaborate and to shrink that down and minimize it to give us a very specific target what we're going after. I can usually tell if the person is ready to go there or not based on the responses they give me, like, I lost it, or it's not working. That is code for, my God, I just got a taste of where we're going and I don't want to go there. And so then I have to kind of talk with them about true or false. We just hit something. We just went to somewhere that has everything to do with why this chronic illness is manifesting. And then I can see it in their eyes, I can see it in their expressions, and they'll usually say true. And I'll say, how long you been running from this? Is this something you're ready to face? Is this something you're ready to deal with? And then it's completely up to them. Sometimes they say no, but at least I know I did my job thoroughly. And sometimes they might say, I'm not ready to deal with this. And when that's the case, I will promise you this: there's no work, there's no subconscious technique, there's no method of resolving their trauma on planet Earth that's going to give this person the proper healing. They aren't ready to go there. They aren't ready to face that. When they are ready to face that, we can get a healing. But oftentimes we get to that initial sensitizing event sometimes, and the person gets a taste of something they didn't know was there, that they've avoided. They've locked in a cellar and throw away the key. And I take them right to it. My intent is to shoot for the stars. Every appointment I have with a person, they will tell you we shoot for the stars. We go to the most biggest bang we can get out of that to have humongous change. And I can tell you right away, sometimes people aren't ready for that, even if they've committed, even if they've paid, even if they've sat through the consult and they say they want to, sometimes they get a taste of the ISC, the initial sensitizing wound, the first seed planting, and it becomes something that they just aren't quite ready to face yet. And I have to honor that. But just to let you know, um, that's why sometimes people, we need to give them compassion for where they're at and let them know that, hey, when you're ready for this, you give me a call. Oftentimes they might say they're not ready to face it there. I finish up the session with them, um, let them move freely throughout their life the way they want. I honor that. And usually within a few months they contact me and it's been on their mind and they want to go after it and they want to get that resolved because now they know that the answer was there and they choose to blink. They choose to look away. Okay. So whenever let's kind of shift gears for a moment and let's talk about something that when these things aren't expressed, when these things are not addressed, when they stay locked inside the body, I want to point out the only time these negative emotions, these negative feelings can really cause havoc on us is when they stay locked inside the body. Um, when these things are not expressed, these things you could call non-physical will eventually evolve into physical. And they do that through a process, through a chemical group of chemical messengers known as neuropeptides. And this is work from Candace Pert. Neuropeptides are a special type of ligand chemical molecule that are manufactured in the hypothalamus within a structure of the brain. And what they do is they're also manufactured by our immune system, according to some new research. And these chemical messengers are passed through the pituitary gland, and they release additional messengers throughout the body that always have specific instructions with them. So neuropeptides are molecule messengers stored within cells and tissues. They're manufactured in the hypothalamus and they get stored in the body at certain areas. And until the biochemical component is able to move freely through the body, when certain emotional states or feelings are actually expressed. Now, in the case I was just telling you about, we had to go somewhere. We saw something, and the patient got a taste of something they weren't ready to feel, they weren't ready to experience, and they back out of it. And I have to honor that. There's nothing I can do. I'm a professional, very, very, very accurate at taking people where we need to go with my intent when I'm rooted into them and me like a detective asking questions more so than um, a majority of people that maybe they've worked with. I'm not saying that I'm the best. I'm saying that I work with people and have great results with people that have not been able to obtain results elsewhere because of my tenacity. But it's ultimately up to the person whenever we go there, if they're ready to address that, if they're ready to face that. If they're not ready to face it, they aren't ready to face what they need to face, then those emotions, those feelings that are in that pocket, that holographic imprint of wound, it fails to get felt. It fails to get expressed. So these neuropeptides that are chemical structures of our emotions, it's how the body can be physically changed and altered by emotions when we experience them. Whenever we have these, basically what happens, every emotion we ever experience, every time we ever felt joy, every moment we've ever felt loss, hurt, or betrayed, every single trauma we've had, even if it's in the very depths of the subconscious mind from the time in the womb, infancy, or childhood, they all produce these neuropeptides. And when we understand it's the idea that these trapped emotions inside a person's physical body that is breeding the illness, you can begin to see how this unfolds. If you had a small amount of helium to contain, the skin of a balloon would be adequate for that. Now, if you had liquid oxygen contained 2,300 psi, you will certainly need a well-built steel container with no warp places on the sides, no valves, no gaps, absolutely no porous metal. It must be a very tight vessel to contain this liquid oxygen. So when you have a person, like I'm discussing, with chronic illness that no doctor's been able to heal, despite modifying their lifestyle, giving them meditation techniques, detoxing their system over and over, detoxing and detoxing. And they're taking all these different detoxing supplements, cleaning up the way they eat, yet something still remains. Or even on the flip side of that, perhaps all conventional approaches are exhausted. No chemotherapy, no radiation, no steroids has been able to reverse that. I will guarantee you that there's one nasty pile of pent up pressure in that person's body somewhere. And whenever I was discussing getting to that ISC, I'm it's like the bullseye to that target. So, you can imagine with a person that has chronic illness, that critical faculty is it kind of goes from like a thin piece of leather to several pieces of leather to a saddle like on the back of a horse to a piece of thin aluminum to several sheets of aluminum to now a thin piece of steel to several pieces of steel to several layers of steel, like a book of just layers of steel, to now you have a sheet of titanium. So, as you can imagine, it goes from that to that based on the level of chronic illness they have. When a person is, at their lowest terminal illness, like I said, despite modifying lifestyle, detoxing their system, no supplement help them, nothing there, nothing's working. They've exhausted all systems, they've exhausted all methods, and nothing's been able to reverse it. I guarantee there's a nasty pile of pressure pent up somewhere, and that perception is coated in titanium. So these emotions that are within that container are meant to be metabolized and moved through the body, something vital. It's a necessity for health. They can only move through the body if nothing is holding them back and the emotions are able to be expressed. Okay. Here's a quote from Candace Pert. When emotions are expressed, which is to say the biochemicals that result from an emotion are flowing freely, all systems are united and made whole. Unquote. That's from Candace Pert. Okay. Uh, Molecules of Emotion, 1999, page 273. If a person has unresolved fear, for example, from childhood trauma, and they've not been able to heal or process correctly, they've never been able to feel those feelings. These neuropeptides cannot be metabolized and they will not move through the body. They stay stuck. Your subconscious mind is protective, as we've already covered. And the way it protects you from this trauma is to store it. It stores it. If we could paraphrase your subconscious, it would say something like, well, you may not be able to process this trauma right now. No problem. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to store it as a holographic imprint, as a chemical emotional signature somewhere in your body. And that chemical emotional signature, again, is the neuropeptides. I'll store it somewhere in your body and I will wait patiently for you to gain the emotional maturity and the awareness so we can go back and process that fear and let me leave, let me go home free. Okay. So, in other words, what I was discussing is if the person is not ready, they still have contacted me, they want to heal. Now, this doesn't happen often, but sometimes it does. And that's why it's important to discuss this. If the person is still not able to process that, the neuropeptides are stored as frozen emotional molecules within that holographic pocket of consciousness, and it behaves like a wound. Whenever it gets triggered, that's what goes active. Anytime something happens and you have these negative feelings surge up in your body, that's what's taken place. So when the holographic imprint is neutralized, don't be surprised if tears come up or feelings are released. Feelings and emotional releases are essential for healing. Now, if the neuropeptides are stored in the tissues and the organ systems that you associate with unresolved and unexpressed emotions, you'll notice there's a pattern. So these neuropeptides are stored in tissues and organ systems that have to deal with the trauma. If the unresolved trauma is in a female, and it has unexpressed emotions regarding fear and prevention of being nurturing to others. In other words, there's a subconscious perception saying, I do not deserve to be nurtured. I'm responsible for how other people feel. I don't deserve to be nurturing. I had the opportunity to nurture and I blew it, which would mean abortion, or other people's feelings are much more important than mine. Their body, her body is denied the opportunity to feel these feelings of nurturing. So guess what part of her body will show signs of of accumulated, unmetabolized buildup of molecules? Right. Her breasts, right? Her breast first, ovaries and uterus second. So here's the deal. When a woman has the inability to express emotions, okay? Um, in other words, she's not allowed to feel anger. Anger is bad. I can't feel anger. I must not feel these this way. They keep that stored in their body. They don't allow themselves to express those emotions, those feelings. That gets bottled up inside of them, and the neuropeptides do not metabolize. They begin to accumulate over and over and over. And in this case of nurturing, I don't deserve to be nurturing. I had the opportunity to nurture and I blew it. Something like that, her body is going to show up in a predictable way. This mass of accumulating unmetabolized molecules known as neuropeptides, they will show up in her breast. So neuropeptides can influence the organs we associate with our unresolved trauma. It's not only are they not that they're negative in themselves, they're specifically, they're not specific to causing illness either. Okay. I want to make that clear. It's not that they are negative or evil or are specific, in to cause illness, but their role is to hold on to our unresolved emotions that we do not express. And they can do so for decades after the initial trauma. Their role is to hold that until we can metabolize that, till we can let those emotions go, till we can feel that stuff, feel those emotions, let those negative feelings pass through. When that happens, neuropeptides are metabolized and they leave the body. If they are not felt, they accumulate and they stick into certain areas of the body and they will start to show up. It may show up as an itching somewhere. Maybe we have an itching in a certain spot in our body. If that doesn't get our attention, eventually it becomes a little more so. Maybe now we have some localized inflammation, redness. Continue to ignore it, or we use herbs, we use supplements, we use creams and cortisones cortisone cream that treat the symptoms. The subconscious mind says, hey, you're not listening. Now I must step up my game. And it begins to do something else on a quite a larger scale, increasing over time. And when a stored injury of trauma is ignored for so long, even after the cells, tissues, organs have reproduced themselves, in other words, after we have a whole new body that's restored over a decade of time, but yet it's still there, it will become more and more and more physical to get our attention. A woman, a global spiritual leader named Chris Grissom once said that the body is cosmic teacher and it will speak louder and louder until it gets your attention. So, what starts as trapped perception, as a trapped emotion, captured as a holographic imprint during the years of conception around age 5, that stays emotionally charged will amplify over time as more life experiences begin to accumulate, as more secondary sensitizing events add to it until it gets the subconscious mind's full attention. Then it will begin to manifest as a little issue first, slowly over time getting louder and louder, presenting itself as a symptom, a cold or an illness. And then it will become quite serious if we don't pay attention to it. Um, a mentor of mine once said you'll run out of body parts long before your subconscious mind runs out of ideas to get your attention. So that's what happens. Whenever we are not allowed, we don't allow ourselves to feel these feelings. We keep things repressed. We don't allow ourselves to feel the emotions that we should feel. That stuff stays bottled up, and the neuropeptides go from, the emotional content, which is non-physical, into the physical content, which is these molecules. Actual molecules start to build up until they become quite serious. Now, on to something more fascinating. I've been kind of waiting to share this with everyone because it's really important. Now that you understand neuropeptides, is better nutrition the cure, or could nutritional advice actually cause harm? So I want to be real clear on this. I am not by any means um, promoting that people go out and eat a bunch of junk food. Okay. I'm not saying that we should do that. But whenever we think about autoimmune disease increasing, our first suspicion for this instantly jumps to these environmental toxins, cell phone radiation, stealth infections, Lyme disease, parasites, and this increasing amount of processed fast food, technologically manipulated food substance that just saturates our grocery store. Now, could this increase in these processed foods be responsible for the tremendous amount of growth, chronic diseases, and autoimmune conditions? Well, it may be surprising to some, but it seems the jury is still out because the connection between these things and definite rock solid connection to autoimmune has been, there's no link been established yet. And I'm going through the research, the journals, and all that. You can't find it. Does that mean I promote it? No. But does that mean that we should always put emphasis on, if you're going to do something, first improve your nutrition? That's not the best thing to do. This will all make sense in just a moment. Okay. This will all make sense in just a moment. So I had I had a 43-year-old female patient once named Trisha come to me, who is a fit entrepreneur, and she had sold all kinds of things. Over time, she had great success selling herbs and probiotics and parasite cleanses. And she came to me with breast cancer, her third recurrence. I kindly and as we start this, she starts telling me over and over that I need to have these. I need to have them in my life. I need to have them in my some with my patients. These cleanses that kill herbs, and these enzymes, or these cleanses that kill parasites. They don't kill herbs, they kill parasites. And over and over and over, and I was kind and gentle. And then finally I had to say, look, if this stuff was such amazing, then you and I would have never met. And we finished up our session, and I didn't hear from her for a few months. And I thought maybe I had upset her or triggered her, by saying those things. But all of a sudden, she comes after a few months, she signs back up, sees me. And the first thing she says after a long pause is, I've really been thinking about what you said. And you, I think you'll find it no surprise that I've been to every kind of internist, functional medicine doctor, naturopathic doctor, as well as many types of alternative healing cancer resorts across the nation. And some of these places are so unique and exclusive, they cater to the highest stratum of clientele based on who can afford it. And because of that, she told me, I realized that all these women sitting in the lobby are similar. They're wealthy, they're fit, same kind of status, low body fat. They look great in spandex. They're all drinking water. And of all those visits, she said, I've never seen an obese person in any kind of lobby who is feeding on some Twinkie. What she had noticed in these lobbies these alternate cancer centers that the women sitting there were fit, in good shape, had low body fat, drinking some kind of water, and they were not the obese kind snacking on some junk food. A frantic sound suddenly comes up in her voice. And in my family, she says, I'm the one who insisted everyone exercises. I spend all this time preparing healthy organic food that my husband rarely eats. I'm the one who pushes the vitamins. I'm the one who pushes the green smoothies. And she can no longer hold these tears back. And she goes, and I'm the one who has breast cancer. So, what's another way of describing a woman who refuses to nurture herself, put everyone else first? Super autonomous self sufficiency, highly amplified, outsized, abhorrence to ask anyone for help in any manner while maintaining an automatic, impulsive attitude towards the well being of others. In this case, Trisha had completely neglected the stress of her own body while desperately attempting to get her family to partake in, quote, healthy lifestyle approach, unquote. So the point is, as society across the span of several generations, we have been conditioned in early moments of our life from birth on to see food as a substitute for security. And if you look at a mother in modern times, we can see she's trained to answer the baby's cries with first a diaper check, once the diaper's clean, to stuff a bottle in the mouth. It never occurs to her because the conditioning of our culture and the advice of so-called experts that are babies crying because they're seeking connection just to be held. Now, if the baby is seeking connection and not being held, this is our classic little t trauma. And this wounds the child. Their heart begins to accumulate a void. Very important. The heart begins to accumulate a void. And as a majority of our culture has lost the parenting instincts, the parent mistakenly identifies food with the filling of the heart. Yet food can only fill the stomach. So we're programming the subconscious mind in this early times to fill the voids with what we could refer to as security with food. And our culture naturally solidifies these alignments with food. And so now years later, when the void in the heart is still vacant, because food can only fill the stomach, and because of totally unrelated subconscious programming of a nurturing void or not getting that connection, all the potential nurturing energy that this person's deficit in is still not receiving. Whenever they come in contact with a coach, a self-sabotage coach, or a functional medicine doctor, whatever little bit they're getting of comfort and security is coming from that food. And now, you know, that food is not aligned with the ones that are the recommended from the nutritionist, the functional medicine doctor, the naturopathic doctors. So the little bit of comfort they're getting is not aligned with the ones from their upbringing, their childhood experiences, and it's not aligned with the ones the coaches and nutritional doctors are going to recommend. So what we have is a scenario where the person already programmed for self-mutilation on some level, a person whose subconscious mind is set only on obtaining perfectionism. So anything less than perfect means self-punishment. They're already programmed to beat themselves up for every inefficient act that they're doing wrong, like Trisha. Now finds out the only place that they're able to get a taste of security is bad, wrong, and detrimental to them. So I want to ask you, what do you suppose happens to a subconscious mind set on self-mutilation that suddenly gets the impression of, my God, I can't even do that right? Unbeknownst to myself and my colleagues in functional medicine and thousands of doctors and nutritionists, we instructed our clients and our patients to remove from their lives the one and only place they were able to get a taste of security from. And to do this without having any understanding of that little taste of security we removed from them may have prevented the cancer from spreading, the pain from increasing, or the autoimmune condition to proliferate into more confusion and chaos in the first place. Let me give you an example. A close friend of mine, mentor, that I'll call Jerry, shared a story with me that solidifies and concretes this point more than any other example I could share. He was discussing this concept of nutrition with me and how the improper utilization of it is mostly done in our society, and it can be detrimental to a person's psyche when their particular programming in their subconscious mind is misunderstood. Like myself, he had been qualified to do this work from his own childhood experience. Um, his father was very abusive. Out of nowhere, he would just hit him on the head without any kind of reasoning behind it. With this unpredictability in his father's behavior, he recalled one moment of satisfaction with his father, one moment when he knew he was safe from an unpredictable blow to the head from his dad. And it was when the two of them would walk on this particular street in a little town in Michigan, go to Russell's Market, sit on the curb, and share a bottle of Yoo-Hoo together. As this younger Jerry was sharing this drink with his father, as he shared this drink with his father, a powerful hypnotic anchor was set into his subconscious mind. This means that some physical happening that occurred during key emotional periods in life anchor themselves to that emotion in that moment. So later on in a person's life, during a moment at a future time when the same physical happening occurs again, that person gets a release of emotional elixir of neurochemicals. They get a release of emotional things, and along with a set of feelings that the person consciously wants to feel or not. Now, in this case, Jerry did want those feelings of nurturing. Okay. He wanted to feel those nurturing feelings. The problem is the only thing on planet Earth that would elicit those feelings of bonding with his dad was a bottle of Yoo-Hoo. So, understanding the power of anchoring, working with the subconscious mind, which is connected to the entire realm of quantum universe, aligning with the urge to feel connection with his dad when there is a void in his heart, you can understand the importance of neuropeptides, how powerful felt and expressed emotions are, even if they come from a bottle of Yoo-Hoo, right? But the ingredients in this chocolate flavored drink are enough to make a health coach, nutritionist, self sabotage coach, doctor, anyone else go off the deep end with critical remarks of how awful it is for their health. And they would be under the mistaken impression the ingredients are somehow doing something negative to their body. Believe me, I've been there. I have played the role of this doctor who was ignorant about these concepts and was taking these things for face value. In my ignorance, I thought my patient was sabotaging themselves. I falsely misjudged them. And I didn't know that the good that this bottle of Yoo-Hoo could be doing with their subconscious, allowing them to express certain feelings of nurturing. Knowing what you just learned, knowing what you just learned today, would you have the nerve to tell Jerry that that bottle of Yoo-Hoo was anything but the most nutritional elixir that he could ever ingest? Remember what we're working with, the power of the subconscious mind, the tenacity, goal achieving agency that it's able to do, and the power to alter our biochemistry when introduced to something, even like a placebo, is nothing short of incredible. In the case of Jerry, this bottle of Yoo-Hoo acted on his biochemistry as a substitute for wholeness and completeness by reminding him in a subconscious mind of the pleasurable moments with his dad sitting on that curb. Okay. So the point is that if you try taking something from someone that they see as soothing, giving them some sort of comfort, you could actually be making them worse. You could actually make them go from the pan to the fire. So that is just something to keep in mind. And I hope you all kind of got something from this today. If somebody is programmed for self mutilation, there's not enough organically grown beets, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts to save their life. But if they have a self worth program operating within them, there's not enough cigarettes, deep fried foods, or yoo-hoo to kill that person.